Good evening. Thank you for joining United Tulsa FC. My name is Terry. Looks like here Racing Louisville just came back and tied it a 2-2 final for the NWSL on a thriller at the 90+3. So
Louisville scored again, 3-2.
So they came back to get a tie right at the end there. So
I was just informed by my girlfriend right now that they just scored, so it's 3-2.
Yeah, 2-2. So
2-2? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, game ends 2-2. So good start for Louisville. I almost said Louisville City, so I apologize about that here. But joining me tonight is Mario. You can follow him at Boston Mario 918. To me, he's a super fan from Tulsa. With FC Tulsa, formerly the Roughnecks, but he was a fan during those mixed years, I guess you could say, because you had a couple of good seasons and a couple not so good seasons here. But how are you doing this evening, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me. I always wanted to say this. First-time caller, long-time listener. But yeah, so I'm doing good. Thank you.
Couldn't get it to work with Scissortail. I know Brian's having life movements over outside of the U.S. right now, so he's real hectic. So hopefully later on this year we'll be able to get the Scissortail pod on, because they do an excellent work covering FC Tulsa as well here. But Mario was kind enough to step in to kind of do a brief review of what happened last year. And I want to kind of go all the way back to last year with the rebound, kind of what it's like at One Oak Field, and then expectations for this year here. So last year for Tulsa, 15 games. They didn't play the last game against RGV for whatever reason. RGV games were hard to play last year for Tulsa. So they finished 6 wins, 7 ties, 2 losses, and a +5 goal difference. I think a lot of people overlook that how they lost in the playoffs to El Paso, which was on PKs 4-2. So it could have been very easy. Tulsa moving on, then El Paso for that here. So, kind of a quick thought. Last year, I know San Antonio and Tulsa had some great matches. I know Eric Bird is a fan favorite now in Tulsa, where they're giving away his shoes if you get season tickets. So if you don't have season tickets, and if that offer's still going, you can get a pair of cleats signed by Eric Bird. Not popular here in San Antonio, but I'm assuming very popular up there in Tulsa.
Oh, yes, he's a very good fan favorite. Also, I just wanted to add in for any other Tulsa fans, they still have their lifetime season ticket price. So if you buy that, not only you get I should be getting paid for this one, but they get a lifetime price for the ticket, and also be in the drawing for Boudoir and Eric Bird's cleats.
And the lifetime is at One OK Field. So just it's if they do transition to a new stadium, of course that'll be a different discussion here. So thoughts on last year's season. I know 2018 was a disappointing year for Tulsa. They were at that time the Roughnecks, but with the the Kraft family purchasing them. Just your, before we talk about the rebrand here, just your thoughts on, last year and, how the season progressed from, ties at the start, and, you had the 2 losses back to back. And then from then on, you didn't lose again. You guys beat RGV. And I think that was the one in Tulsa. You had the back back ties against Tulsa and Oklahoma City. But to end the year, you guys ended up winning out, including the Eric Bird late goal to beat San Antonio on the 26th. And you won 3-2 over OKC Energy, which I believe you guys also won the wrench on that night. And then you guys took care of business against the Switchbacks here. So thoughts on last year, kind of overall, and just kind of the change from 2019 to 2020.
Yeah, no, 2018 was a really tough year. We had a new ownership, the Williams ownership that had it when the last season of the Tulsa Roughnecks, and then it was a little switch over from 2019. The Crafts bought it, just like you said. With the Crafts, a lot of people don't know this, but last year was like it started all over again.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 2 years back to back that started off with new players, a new coach, and new ownership. The new ownership, they're great guys. They're not just involved with the team. They didn't just input players on the team. They're doing a lot of stuff for the community as well. We'll get to that later on too. But last year was really, I think it was a little chemistry. Everybody was starting to figure out their roles, and then mid-season they starting to understand where they needed to be at. A lot of players are coming from different teams, different chemistry styles, different formations, and like you said, in the middle, it just kind of started coming together, and the team started learning how to play with each other and learning their assets and their stuff that they needed to work on in the season compared to 2018.
Yeah, heading into last year with the rebrand, and I said this, I think I was one of the early people that jumped on the especially when the groups came out. Where it was RGV, San Antonio, Austin, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa, in the group. I was, when they did the rebrand, going from the Roughnecks to FC Tulsa, which a lot of people liked the Roughnecks branding and scheme here. The Tulsa one I liked. I thought it was pretty clean, but you could tell it was a fresh start.
Yeah.
And to me, it reminded me of Rising when they got their new ownership, when they switched from Arizona United, where they had, they didn't have that consistency. They came in and they said, "Hey, we're gonna change it from the top to bottom. The colors, everything was changed." And to me, that to me is what's impressed me the most is Tulsa used to be a team that didn't do much on social media. Now they're very responsive on social media. I follow Twitter, but I think I've heard Instagram and stuff. All across social media, their game's pretty strong with that here. Obviously, the uniforms, kits. I think they did a great job with the branding of it here, and this would probably be where your local perspective will come in. I think 2018, 2019, fans were starting to turn away from the Roughnecks here, where it was harder to draw people in. But I think with the rebrand, it kind of relit that fire back in Tulsa, where it got people excited again for that here. Is that kind of a fair assessment?
Yeah, and to be honest, totally honest with you, when they came out with the whole FC Tulsa, I wasn't a fan favorite of it at first. I grew up in the East Coast, and I love stuff from the past. And moving to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and finding out about the 1983 championship and the NSL, old NSL, learning about the history of that, how many fans we had in the stadium down in central Tulsa. I was in love with that. I love that past history of FC Tulsa Roughnecks. And when they came out with that, it was like they wanted to start brand new, brand fresh with everything. And I was like, I'll give this a chance, but I'm still, as you can see in the back, I still have my FC stuff, plus my other Chelsea stuff as well. But it was kind of hard. But then I was like, I'm going to give this a chance. I actually met up with the ownership we have a German festival, German couple days of German, I forget what's the word of it, but
like Renaissance Fair, that type of stuff.
It's kind of like the Renaissance Fair. Oktoberfest.
Okay.
So we met up with them. We were having shot skis with the ownership. I'm not sure if you're familiar with shot ski.
Uh-huh.
He came right beside me and a couple other supporters and started drinking with us, and we were having a great old time. And I was starting to see that this ownership's not just business type, or this is just another little hinge in their little belt, but they were actually caring about the supporters. They kind kind of talked to us. We were in a private messages or stuff like that, and always backed us supporters as well. But like you were saying, with this whole new rebrand, the team is just starting to do not just the soccer part of it, but they're starting to do the community part, doing involvements with the police, the Tulsa police here in town, starting to do stuff with like Tulsa United Way and other couple special programs that they're doing right now. That's right now amazing. And they're they're no longer the USL wooden spoon on their social media. Last year that was Oklahoma City, and they deserve that. Many years of watching them just talk about all their times that they won the wrench. But yeah, it's really good. It's refreshing. That's a better word for it. With the winning mentality that they're putting, not just on the field but off the field, and community involvement is starting to make a lot more sense with this new team.
So the only thing that's missing to me in the rebrand is the new stadium. And I think they've kind of teased it a little bit, especially where you mentioned the lifetime season ticket thing there. And I think they've teased it's a few years down the road here. Have you heard anything more than just kind of, the little teases that they've kind of let out there to where, possibly it's going to be sooner than later, because I was talking with, as Colin and Will from, Energy FC, fans from theirs. And, they were talking about their new stadium coming and while I had the impression it was coming sooner than later, it still sounds like it's going to be a few years out. So I haven't been to one as of yet. That's on my list, but obviously this year San Antonio doesn't travel to Tulsa. So obviously it's not going to be this year unless we're doing a vacation. So stadium wise, do you anticipate something sooner, or do you think you guys are going to be at one OK field for a while?
If I follow rumors all day long, I probably will never get nowhere. But that's all we hear lately is just rumors. Right now, one thing that the ownership wants to do is focus more on the community and let that grow. The more they're in contact with the community, working alongside, we'll have more higher supporters, not just supporters, but fans in the stands.
Right.
I don't see one for the next 12 or maybe more years. There's plenty of places here in town. There's a lot of stuff that's being built here in Tulsa as well. But for right now, I don't see no stadium being built anytime soon, but hopefully here soon.
So speaking of one OK field here, what's game day like? Pre-game, post-game? Obviously the atmosphere during the game. Can you kind of take me what a typical game day is like in Tulsa?
Oh yeah. So normally all our supporters group, we probably get in front of the One Oak Field. There's a street called Elwood, and we meet Elgin. Sorry, we meet at Elgin. They actually block off that whole entire street.
Oh, nice.
And it's a good maybe like 3 or 4 streets worth. But they block that off for the supporters and for their little stands and stuff like that, for the ownership stands, for merch sales and stuff like that. But we meet there at 4. We kind of close up shop between 6:30. In between that time, we have barbecues going on. We have the Lunatics cooking some hot dogs and stuff like that. There's little goals around that we're playing soccer. Most of the times, that's where you'll find me, that or drinking. But
so it's almost like a street fair, not like in San Antonio. It's a tailgate, but up there it sounds more like a kind of a street fair where they close off the street. It's real community. You got the supporter groups, and I'm assuming it's like the rest of the USL where everybody's welcome. Even away fans and stuff like that.
We actually
until kickoff.
We encourage that. We're not shy. I even invite the Oklahoma City guys to come, and Colin could tell you, any of the Oklahoma City guys, a large portion of them are good friends of mine. And I always go and visit them as well. But yeah, we're more welcoming for fans, away fans. Anybody that wants to come down, they should come down to Tulsa and come and hang out with us. We have tailgates. Fortunately, we don't have any like places like parking lot, tailgates, proper ones. But hopefully down the road that can change. But Yeah, it's fun times. Right after when the game starts, we're in our section right behind the goal, and you'll see us all kind of spread out because of this whole COVID situation. But we're just chanting, hollering. There's people, there's drummers, there's guys that are flying the flags, there are little banter groups, but it's a good time at Tulsa, and I can't wait to go to San Antonio myself. I've never been there. I would love to go and visit.
So San Antonio, we have a basically it's under a bridge or an underpass of the road right next to the stadium, for here. So we're you'll have the Crocketeers, 210, Mission City 118. They'll all have like their little sections, and you're able to kind of ebb and flow. And then you'll have families that'll also have barbecue and stuff through there. Have the kids playing soccer and music in the background. So it's all about the community. Drinking a couple of beers and having tacos or barbecue. Whatever's on the grill. So to me, that's like you. I think that's last year we didn't get to do it, with COVID. I know here in San Antonio, at least the first 5 games, which is basically the first 2 months of the year on San Antonio's schedule, they're going to have attendance at about 3,200, which is about 30% of the stadium here. So hoping that, once May, June, once July comes around, that, we'll be able to pick it up a little bit more than that here. We're not saying 3,200's can't be loud, but it's not the 6,000-7,000 that typically San Antonio has. Yeah. So you brought up the Black and Gold Derby with the rivalry with Oklahoma City Energy. What does that mean for Oklahoma? I spoke to Colin and Will from the Energy, and they they like that the community that it brings. You've got with the politicians of each, the mayors of each one, that participate, and they said it's one that
the Gold Rush.
Well, they love to hate Tulsa. We'll leave it at that. Where I guess there's for me not being from Oklahoma. I always thought Oklahoma City was the bigger city, but I guess history says otherwise, that there was at a time where there was a battle of who would be, the biggest city in Oklahoma, between Tulsa and Oklahoma. So you have that rivalry that's been passed down from generation to generation. So from Tulsa's side, what does the Black and Gold Derby, mean to you guys?
Oh man, for me, it means a lot. A great analogy that I always like to tell my friends, you can look at the Black Gold Derby as if you can look at Northern California against Southern California. Or the same thing I can say for Texas, North Texas versus South Texas. Houston Texans versus Dallas Cowboys. It's that kind of rivalry, but a little bit more closer. I didn't know how intense it was until I moved here. From college football, college sports, high school sports, travel soccer here in town. It's so intense. You say Tulsa, if you're from Oklahoma City, it's like, oh no, those guys. We say, Oklahoma City, those uppity guys, it's fun. I love the banter. When I first moved here in Oklahoma, I went to Tulsa, I didn't know nobody even liked soccer, to be honest. And one of my buddies that I first met here, he's like, there's a soccer bar in Oklahoma City. I was like, it's like 2 hours away. Why do I have to travel all the way over there? But I've met a lot of them, and as much banter that goes along, it's great. We love, it's nice to now say, we're winning this one, but
at least last year.
Last year, yes.
So they've won 4 out of 6 years. So if you guys can win this year, which I think odds are you have to be the favorite. Just no offense to the Energy fans, I'm not sold on your team, especially when it comes up against Tulsa. But that's why they play the game. For Oklahoma City, beating Tulsa may be their season for that here. So I always ask, for away fans, for like myself here, if we were to come to Tulsa for the weekend, or even it's just for the day trip, what's some of the things that that an away fan should either go visit or eat, or make sure that they hit up before they leave the Tulsa area?
Oh man, I hope we have enough time for all this whole list. But well, Tulsa is actually it's a wonderland. I love this town. We actually just built a couple years ago a good little park. It's called the Gathering Place.
Okay.
The Gathering Place is a nice trail. They have kids park area. There's basketball courts, some futsal that we kind of do from time to time there. There's skate parks. There's, like I said, kids parks. There's a lot of greenery, surrounding. It actually follows the Arkansas River that goes through Tulsa, so that's pretty nice. And they're doing more stuff for that place. We have the Tulsa Botanical. That's a great place. If you like to just walk through peaceful, environment, see greenery, landscape, that's a great check out. Our zoo, it's a really good zoo as well. And if you want to see that Wonder Team from ORU and see their praying hands, that's a good sight to go see as well. Other than that, on food-wise, oh my God, if you love Mexican food, like I do myself, there's they have gas stations, they have food trucks in every corner. There's a little part here in town in East Tulsa that they call that Little Mexico.
Okay.
All the great food trucks that you can find, like tacos, birria tacos, quesadillas, you name it, carne asada, they'll have it. Another place to go check out too is downtown. Downtown is the happening spot. Downtown has a lot of musical stuff. Before COVID, they have the Brady Arts. A lot of famous bands gone there before. We have our favorite soccer bar called Empire Bar. That's where all our supporters from, like I said, myself, I'm a Chelsea fan. My group goes over there. There's a Man U group. There's a Tottenham group that goes and checks it out. It's not a food restaurant, but it's a good bar. And you can watch all kind of sports over there. And then our supporters for 83, we all go to the Tulsan. It's just blocks away from the stadium, from One Oak Field. We go check that out. They have great drinks. The owner is actually a supporter as well. So it's always great to go out there and enjoy it after victories, after winning the wrench. And we'll be doing that 2021. But no, but in serious, there's so much stuff to do in Tulsa. It's just a fantastic town.
Yeah, it's on my place to visit. The problem, it always seems like when San Antonio plays Tulsa, it's midweek.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually late in the year, like during the school year for odd reasons. They never, you guys usually come down early in the year, and then we'll typically go up and see you late in the year. And then, of course, I think past 3 years, actually, San Antonio has struggled late in the year up in Tulsa. So
yeah,
hopefully that will change. If we, it'll depends what happens with you guys and if you guys come back to the West. So speaking of that, New Year's, new faces. I think the biggest change for Tulsa is they are no longer in the Western Conference. They are now in the Eastern Conference for here. So are you excited or not to be in the Eastern Conference? I know you still have some crossover games with the West here, for that here. But going forward, like I said here, most of your games will be, Eastern and Central time zone, no more Pacific time zone, which, I would be a huge fan of personally, but of course, different groups here. So thoughts on Tulsa and Oklahoma City Energy moving to the East this year and not staying out West?
I actually love it. I was actually hoping to play more Eastern teams because I would love to go visit my family all over the East Coast. But no, actually, one thing that I was hoping that we would have earlier games. All the 1-0 games are going to be at 7 o'clock, so that's a yay and nay. But I'm actually excited to go play some of these other teams in the Central Conference. I can't wait to go to Louisville. After watching this game, I definitely want to go.
Yeah, the new stadium. Yeah,
new stadium. I want to go visit that. I know everybody wants to go do that. I want to go to Indy. Now they're going to play back in their old NASL.
Bowie, yeah, which I think is where they should be playing, and not,
Yeah.
No offense, but the blue end zone bothered the hell out of me.
Oh, yeah. We can talk about stadiums later, but I could talk about Taft Stadium, and but that's
I've been to Taft. Taft, I like it because of the historicalness, the history of it, but I can't wait till Oklahoma City gets a proper stadium, and because I'm not going to lie to you, being a lower division fan, no team is guaranteed 3 years from now, 5 years from now. If you follow lower division soccer, very rare do you get teams that have the longevity of like Richmond and North Carolina, Tampa Bay, along those lines there, where they've got that long-term history. A lot of the teams now are 5-10 years, you'd probably estimate on average. For that here. So that would be my only concern is the length that it takes to get to a new stadium. And looking at the schedule here, you guys really don't go east, do you? You really Atlanta's kind of the furthest that you go. And I know that's in the South in your group, but you guys, like we go to New York. San Antonio plays the Red Bulls too. For that here. So interesting here. So travel for you guys will be pretty, for away fans is actually kind of reasonable this year.
Yeah, I think like the furthest is like 10 hours away, and I think that might be, I want to say that was Indy. That might be the furthest ones away from us, Birmingham and Memphis as well. But I'm excited to see those stadiums. I am going to try to travel a little bit more after getting my second COVID and not COVID, my second vaccine for COVID. All right.
Hopefully you haven't had the first one.
No, I haven't. I got both my shots, so I haven't got any COVID.
Nice. I got one shot, so I got another month before I can get my second one. So
my company kind of cheated. My boss's sister's in the medical field. She's like, "Hey, they're having openings." I was like,
"You have to ask me twice."
Sign me up. But we're me and my girlfriend, my family, and a couple other supporters. We want to travel and see as many games as we can as possible. But I'm really, really excited to go to Louisville. I wanted to go. I think it was last year before Memphis started. A couple of our supporters went to Memphis for a match out there against Tulsa. It was like a friendly, but I want to go travel a little bit. Like I told you earlier, I'm really upset that we didn't go to no Eastern team because I would love to go to any of those lower league teams. Like I'd love to go to Pittsburgh or
the Riverhounds.
Yeah, I've been following lower league soccer since like the late '90s. I've been watching the A League. I used to watch, NISA as well. It's just I love to see the longevity, just like you, of all these little, not little, but other soccer teams in town and also in the league.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how. I think after this year, I think USL hopefully will stay with us for conference or 4-division split, because I think, I think before when you were in the West, the East felt like a different league.
Oh yeah.
Where now I think you got a little bit more of the intermixing, and it's more of a traditional league here in the United States where, you have your primary area that you play, your primary conference, but you cycle through teams, on there. So, and I know for the soccer traditionalists, hey, it should be a pure schedule. Everybody plays there, but it's an equal schedule. But I think here in the States, just due to travel, just due to, logistics and along those lines here, I think doing the 4 conferences, I think it makes it very easy. Hey, top 4 in your group, play. And I have a feeling we're probably going to be around the same number of teams, because I think the MLS 2 teams, I think at some point they're going to cycle down to Division III for the most part, and then I think you're going to see hopefully more independent teams like RGV break away from the 2 model for that here. So losses of players, there's one that I have to give a shout out to, and he's well known, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and San Antonio. Scipion Hedrick, who retired this past year. I know he spent time, multiple stops in Oklahoma and with us here in San Antonio. So I know last year he didn't really see much of the field for that here, but I think 2019 he anchored the defense fairly well here. So thoughts, we're praying. I hope he has a great retirement here, but. Biggest loss on the field, I think you mentioned, was Toby Uzo is the biggest loss. I had Fabian Batistas just because he was the other big name that I had noticed that had kind of left here, and his name was kind of mixed bag, both good and bad, unfortunately, for that here. But talk to me about what the loss of Toby means for FC Tulsa this year.
3-time winning goal of the year, Toby Uzo. Let's say it right first. Toby was a great leader. I was a little bit sad last year that he was more of a bench player coming out, and but when he did those great goals. The game-winning goals when we needed him. Also a couple assists as well. But Toby Uzo is one player that he had that kind of leadership, but for some apparent reason, he was more of a bench player, more bench key player. But also, Sir, great call out there. He's a great leader. He's actually, I think, in 2019, he was our captain.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
for the league.
He was a former captain, with San Antonio FC as well. And to me, he's we talk about him as a player on the field, but what he does in the community and along those lines, at least what he did in San Antonio, from what I've heard, what he did in Oklahoma City, and I have a feeling he also did in Tulsa as well here, that from a humanitarian aspect here, that's his big, to me, that's kind of the big shoes that SIP leaving that, I know that, we're working to still kind of fill. And then, obviously FC Tulsa this year will have that, and I know you mentioned that's a big, thing right now with the Kraft family on making sure community comes first and being part of the community to be able to help build up that support.
There's one more player that I don't know why I forgot his name, but Ariel Martinez.
Okay.
He went to Miami this year, and I know he didn't do a lot of like highlights and stuff like that, but the stuff that he did on the field, one great thing, he always did the playlist before the game, the songs for the stadium, for the Crafts, so that was great. He always had.
He went to Miami, right?
He went to Miami, yeah. He had a lot of great highlights. He did a lot of great assists. Him and Dario had a great chemistry, both of them playing prior. Also, he played for the Cuban national team as well. And that's one player that I think we are going to miss because of his playmaking, his passing, and also his leadership as well.
So the big player that came in, Jerome Kiesenwetter, forward, center forward, is the big player that came in. I guess the other player in talking with, the friends down in RGV, and this just happened last week, was a loan of Kimbo Kibato, who plays in the attacking mid, spot here. So they were kind of surprised to see him being loaned out here. But those were at least the two names that kind of stuck out to me, Jerome, because it does seem like you guys kept the primary core of the group for that here. But any other new additions that we should be looking out for FC Tulsa this year?
Yes, actually, our defense is going to be stout this year. We got back a couple players, like I said earlier, Jorge Corrales. He came from the MLS. I think he was playing for Montreal Impact.
Yeah, Montreal.
He got signed back up with us. Also, we got Rivas from St. Louis, played for El Salvador's national team over this past fall. Um, Another couple of good players that we got in. We re-signed Mulatto, also Mo Jadama, that he was playing in Atlanta too. He came back and he used to play with us in 2017 as well.
Okay.
He's a really good stout defense. Like I said earlier, Rivas is really good. Let me see. Also, we just got Michael Cunningham. He actually played for Rochester Lancers.
Right. I saw that.
And he's a really good player. I'm excited to see what he does. He's, I think, a forward as well. So
Yeah.
that's really exciting to see him come into our team as well. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what Jerome does for us because not having Uzo there, we need some goals. And one thing that we kind of weren't efficient with is goal scoring last year. So we're hoping that he would be our top player up there.
Well, Jerome, when he was with El Paso, had a pretty good, had 12 goals in 28 matches before he went to, Fort Lauderdale, for the 2020 year for that here. So, I think up front, and he's a big guy to, for that here. And then Dario Suarez was the other one that always gave us problems for that here. I know last year he had, 8 goals or so?
Yep.
For that here, where I think he pretty much, in my opinion, carried, Tulsa, for a little bit. It seemed like every week, that you turned on, there was another highlight goal from him for that here. So, so to me, and of course, Sean Lewis, the goalkeeper was, named one of the USL top 5 goalkeepers for that here, which, created some buzz on social media, we'll say, for that here. I think USL Championship puts that out just to create some buzz and create some banter between the fans here, because I know Phoenix was a little bit upset that Lubin wasn't listed here. So, speaking of expectations for this year for Tulsa, would you say you guys are championship or bust or playoff or bust?
I want to say this year it's going to be playoffs or bust. We have to make that mark. For the past going on now 6 years now, we've always kind of missed out that playoff spot, that last one, and this year's not going to be any different. Indy and Louisville, I don't see them changing. A lot of people.
I think Indy lost a lot of talent.
Yeah, they did.
I'm interested. I don't know. Indy, like, to me, I have Birmingham, I think, is going to be solid. I think Tulsa is going to be solid. And Lou City, I think, is obviously going to be solid. But Indy, Birmingham, and Tulsa, between those three, you can either really love them or you can find things that, hey, this is going to be an issue. So that's where I kind of think with the Central or the Heartland Conference that Tulsa likes to call it. That's the part that, as far as for those three, I think it's going to be interesting. Now the bottom half, I'm not sold on the energy. Sorry, Colin and Will.
Sorry.
I just, like I said here, I hope you guys, especially since you're in the East now, outside of playing us, I hope you guys have, good success. But I just have major concerns on the roster. Sporting Kansas City and Atlanta too. You don't know what you're going to get from them because Sporting Kansas City was actually a pretty decent team last year. They were just in a hell of a tough group, and where they finished last. But I think if they would have been in any other group, they wouldn't have finished last. Atlanta too, from what I've been understanding, listening to Three Honest Lads, is they've got talent. It's just a question if they can put it together. Yeah. And Memphis, like I said here, it took them 6 months to name their interim coach, their coach. So, they're signing some solid players. I think they'll be okay. But Memphis, to me, just doesn't have that feel of a well-run organization right now. I hate to say that, because I was born in Memphis. I got family in Memphis. Mm-hmm. But, I think Memphis is going to be even though they have the easiest schedule out of everybody, I just don't see them see them being very competitive this year. For Tulsa, you get kind of a mixed bag. You get Texas for your out of conference games. You get El Paso home in a rematch of the playoff loss. You get Austin Bold, which, in my opinion, I think they're going to be a step down this year.
Yeah.
For that, you travel to San Antonio, which Tulsa's always historically has struggled in San Antonio, and from my side of the view, hopefully again this year. And then you get RGV, which RGV broke away from the Dynamo, but yet they still keep signing Dynamo players. So I'm a little bit confused on what they're doing. The funny thing about the Dynamo and Tulsa matches last year is one of them got canceled, and the other, I think, started at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, because of weather delays.
Oh yeah, I stayed up watching that.
It finished like 3 in the morning or something.
Yep.
Something. I was well asleep. I'm not gonna. I tried to stay, and I was like, yeah, never mind.
I think it started at 11, and then it started at 11. Then there was another rain delay or weather delay, and then I guess it finished off like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was well in bed by that time.
It was just nuts. I can't, even Edson with Down the Valley, he kind of ripped USL for playing the game, continuing to play the game with that long of delays. Now, last year was unique. Just, it wasn't a normal year where, hey, you could just reschedule it because people were already rescheduling with COVID and schedule was already crammed enough to where I think, as much as I hate to say it, it was probably easier for the players just to deal with, the HEB Stadium than having to deal with a whole nother bus trip. Because I think you guys take the bus down there, right?
Yeah.
Because I know you take the bus down here, or out here. So thoughts on the Central, thoughts on kind of your just, with the Central, I know you've already mentioned Louisville is probably the top team here. Obviously, you're hoping the Energy finish in last place, even lower than Memphis for that here. But, thoughts on your schedule this year and, for that here.
No, I think this is our year to show the league that we can actually play. It's going to be hard, like I said earlier. I kind of predict that Indy's going to come and do their thing what they did last year and be second in our conference. Third, a team that a lot of people don't put a lot of stock to them, but Sporting Kansas City, anytime they play us, they always play us tough. I know last year when they played Louisville, it was a very competitive match. They didn't get destroyed by them. I always put a couple good second string players from Sporting Kansas City on their lineup. So I have a feeling they might be third. I hate to say that because Birmingham is a really good team as well this year. But I think it's going to be a battle between us and Birmingham for that last 4th spot. For the bottom 3, Memphis, I don't see it. Just like you said earlier, that just signing a coach, the interim coach, to make him an actual coach, that was kind of a bad note on there. So they're going to be starting off last. I just hope, like, in 8 months from now, we're going to be like, Memphis won the Central Conference. And I'll be like,
well, then you have the weakest schedule. So I went through and ranked the points per game of schedule. So Memphis, their schedule, who they actually play last year, averaged 1.226 points.
Mm-hmm.
They play home against Miami, which I think is going to be better. Home against Colorado Springs, which you don't know.
Yeah.
They play at San Antonio, which is probably their toughest game outside of Louisville, on the road and in group. And then they play against Red Bulls too, away here. So they're playing, looking at the points per game plus, you hate to say it, but the bottom half of that group with the Energy, with Sporting Kansas City, with Memphis, in there, it brings down the group average, for there with Atlanta too as well. So that's why I think the top 4, if you can take care of business against the likes of Sporting Kansas City, Atlanta, Memphis, because you play 4 times. So if you could get 9 points out of those those four teams, 9 points each, in the matchups from them. That makes it to where the games against Louisville City, the games against Indy, the games against Birmingham, where they're going to be closer matches, where they're going to be tighter, but where you can still add, points. If you can, walk away with the tie, or even if a loss at Louisville City, as long as you handle points at home, I think you're going to be in a comfortable position again, to make the playoffs. But if you struggle with the energy, which it's a rivalry game. If you struggle with Sporting Kansas City too, because I know they're a 2 team, but they're a close team. And as you mentioned, in non-COVID years, Sporting Kansas City 2 and SKC 2 does a lot of player movement back and forth. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of teams that the 2 teams have this year, where they may be able to do a little bit more player movement than they did last year. For that here, but to me, if you can handle your business against the bottom 4 teams, the top 4 teams, you're going to be fighting for order of division, 1 through 4. But and I know Kaler from Hammering Down, he does the podcast for Birmingham Legion. He's got Louisville and Birmingham is 1 and 2. Indy and Tulsa, kind of there, and then a huge gap. And I'm talking like 15, 20 points between, 4 and 5 for that here. So to me, I think playoffs, I'll be very disappointed if Tulsa doesn't make the playoffs. And I know the history of Tulsa says that I shouldn't have that much confidence. But I think this is a different team. Different expectations. I think the ownership has different expectations, which I think is key for that here, where they're building in the community, but they're also building it on the pitch as well, to where, maybe not championship or bust this year, but the arrow's facing that direction, in a pretty high manner for that here.
A couple good saves, we would have been in the semifinals. would have made that not open cup run this year.
So you went out in PKs, we went out in a handball. So it's.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Until we play a game, I can still cry about it. There was a goal that we scored, and we scored a goal first that they ruled off. I still don't know what it was for, but it got disallowed, and then a clear handball or shoulder ball through there here, and we talk up Rising a lot, in overall in USL. But if you really look at their playoff run, it wasn't that impressive. They, Asante punched them past Sacramento, and it was a punch, just like New Mexico got past San Antonio, and then they won two matches in penalties. So they were, despite everybody's, and I'm guilty of it as well, thinking, hey, Rising, is this much better team. Playoff wise, they won't, they caught the breaks last year, but you could very easily see where maybe they don't catch the breaks. And El Paso is one of those teams where they're not flashy, but they're gritty and they get the job done. And that's the crazy thing about El Paso is you don't think that they're not a bad team, but you don't think of them as a great team either, which I guess bottom line is they've been back-to-back Western Conference final appearances. But the last question that I have here for you is, you can choose either one for Tulsa, but what away game would you want to go to the most, here in USL? And then I'll also ask you, since you're a Chelsea fan here, over in Europe, if you were to be able to go to a Chelsea game, where would you like to go see outside of Chelsea? So, obviously everybody would choose, hey, I want to see, Chelsea at their home stadium. But if you had the opportunity to go see them away, where would that be?
So, first one, here in the USL, like I told you before, I would love to go to Louisville. I really want to go to Louisville. You would ask me a couple years ago, before Louisville would have got their stadium, I would have wanted to go see Sacramento, just to see, Papa Murphy's Park full of 11,000 or more fans, I'd love to go see that. And if I can add one real quick one, non-USL one that I want to go to in NISA, I want to go to Detroit.
Detroit. Came with you.
I want to see those Rabbit fans. You know, it kind of was horrible watching that bubble tournament last year and not seeing their fans out there. You know, they're known for that. Now, your second part for the Premier League, I would love to always go to Stamford Bridge because that's my mecca. That's my place.
Well, I said you can go there.
I know. I want to say I want to go to Liverpool. I want to go see, you know, their chanting, you know, they'll never walk alone chant. I would love to just experience that. So I would say go to Liverpool and watch that.
That'd be cool. I'm not an EPL guy. I adopted my first English team and ended up being Accrington Stanley in League One, just because I was like, you know, I've tried adopting a EPL team and it just never stuck. But you know, I've always been kind of that lower division guy, even here stateside, and you know, so I was, Phil with Across the Pitch in Phoenix, you know, listen to his podcast and, you know, talking to him, you know, and it just, you know, it's like, all right, hey, that'll be my team. And, you know, they're a small market team, probably playing overweight right now, you know, probably a League 2 level team based on their stadium and stuff. But that's, you know, if I go to England, that will be one of the spots that I will have to go visit. And, and then I've heard getting into an EPL team is much harder than getting into a League One or, you know, lower division team.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I'm going to go, you know, number one, you know, I'm kind of a cheapskate when it comes to getting tickets and stuff. I'm like, if I can go see 3 games at lower division for the price of one of the EPL, especially where I don't have that affection of a team, I'm going to go for the 3 and support them. Just, you know, I think lower division, you get more appreciation, you know, going to a lower league teams and for that here. But
also on that, so quick story, and I'll make it kind of short.
Oh, you're fine.
When I was in middle school, I never followed EPL. MLS didn't start when I was in middle school, and all my friends were wearing the jerseys and everything. And this is how I got into EPL. My middle school teacher asked me, "So, what's your favorite team?" I was like, "I don't." You know, my nationality, I was born in Puerto Rico, and we don't really like soccer. For us is kickball at the time. So I was like, you know, I don't have a team. And he's like, you know, do me a favor, go home, turn on the Fox Soccer channel, and there's going to be a match on. Whoever wins,
that's your team.
That's your team. And luckily enough, the 2 teams that were playing was Middlesbrough versus Chelsea. And he said, whoever wins is your team. Chelsea won. The next day, he was wearing a Chelsea shirt. He's like, welcome aboard. And that's how I became a Chelsea fan and moved here, started my own soccer supporters group through Chelsea, the football team, football club, and the rest is history.
So before we let you go here, you brought up Sacramento. Thoughts of what's going on in Sacramento where they had MLS and most likely they had NWSL, and it seems like they may not have either. So just, you know, your kind of quick thoughts on how it went from, hey, we've got everything to where, damn, that's all you can say.
It is funny for me because I've seen this already. I've already seen this with another team, but they got their team this year. A lot of us calls us the Tulsa team, the new St. Louis. Well, guess what, Sacramento? You're the new St. Louis. This happened to St. Louis before. You know, I think it was 2004. They were supposed to get an MLS bid. They had everything lined up, and something fell off. You know, they picked Philadelphia Union. Well, Sacramento, their ownership. I think it's going to be super hard for any new ownership to start off.
They're done. They're done.
Yeah.
I know Garber. I know this just from here in San Antonio. Is San Antonio was also supposed to be in MLS.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be done, and then, you know, Mayor Harburger pulled the rug out last minute. And there's a lot of people that think that even though Garber wined and dined, Spur Sports and Entertainment, SAFC, it was always going to be an uphill battle to get them in, even though, politically things have changed and obviously times have changed. But we always knew it was either Austin or San Antonio.
Yeah.
Could both markets handle a team? Sure. But MLS isn't going to put 2 teams, or have 4 teams in Texas at this time, 90, 100 miles away from each other. There's just, the country's just too big to do it, even though that they could. So there's cautionary tales, across, soccer history. Rochester's another one that was this close. And, now, unfortunately, the Rhinos are on hiatus, 3-4 years in a row now. So I don't know at what time you pull them off life support, but but Mario, it was definitely fun to talk to you. Hopefully we'll get to do this again in the future.
Oh, yes.
Any final thoughts or questions that you have for me?
Oh, yes. I got plenty. But I'll make it short, though.
You're fine.
So you were just talking about San Antonio, and I've always wanted to know this. I know there was a timeline for the stadium through the city, if I can remember it right, that they had to get an MLS.
5 years.
So it's 5 years. That was in 2017, was it?
Yeah, I think they're at that stage where they've got to pay I think it's $5 million. They're supposed to be paying $5 million to the county and to the city. Yes, I think they're at that. They're at that time now. We all know politically, what will they? We will probably never hear that.
Yeah.
And especially where the Spurs are involved, they may pay it in other ways, I guess you could say, for it here. I do think SAFC is making money, which is probably one of the few teams in USL that can probably say that. So I think, because being in San Antonio, it's, we're the 7th largest city, but yet it feels like minor league city. We've got the Spurs, and even that, you kind of wonder, hey, how much longer are they going to have the Spurs, before, the NBA pulls them. I don't know if they ever will, just because of the history, of it. But, money hasn't stopped people from moving before. And then you got the Missions that were AAA last year back down to AA. I know you guys have the Drillers, so we'll be back in Texas League. So you'll be seeing more Missions and Drillers games this year again. If AA baseball, the Texas League is your flavor, and obviously we get the arena, the arena teams and hockey team, the AHL. We used to have them, and then what was it, the CPL that. We had a WNBA team that the Spurs sold to Vegas. We had the Rampage that got sold to Vegas. So there's a lot of talk of worry about, hey, is the Spurs going to move? Is the Spurs, would the Spurs move to the basketball to Vegas as well? But I think for SAFC, they're as stable as you can be for it here. And I know $5 million sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot. When you're talking about, Spurs Sports and Entertainment and all the value that they bring. And to be honest with you, the sweetheart deal that they get through the county, because I think the lease on that, I think it was 20 years. So for them to pony up the $5 million, I don't think, it's a story, but I don't think it's a big story, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, the last thing that I just wanted to tell, for anybody else out there listening, if you ever come down to Tulsa, and I want to invite you also, Harry, I forget what date it is, but Oklahoma City is going to be coming to our to One Oak Field to play us. I was just told New Mexico's out, their supporters group, the Curse.
Yes, sir. I saw rumors of that, yeah.
That they're going to be coming down here. Not rumors, actually. My girlfriend actually is on the board for 83 United. She just told me they're going to be coming down. Some Hooligans from St. Louis are going to be coming down. And if you ever want to come, if you want to come that same day, come down. You want to find out any more information, you can go to 83 United. They have all the.
What day is it?
What day is that?
You said it's not the. You said energy come to there.
Yeah,
July 2nd?
I want to say it was in July.
July 17th.
I think so. Yeah, July 17th. If you want to come down, like I said, the curse is going to be coming down. The Luligans are going to be coming down. I'll have a beer for your name on there, Harry. Just come down. Just check out 83 United through their Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram page. We have multiple students.
Just out of curiosity, what's the kind of the backstory on that? If you can, are you able to share that as of yet or not yet?
I think it was just we had last year so many plans for them to come down, and we had a big old ordeal. You know, we were going to have some competitions. You know, hot dog eating competitions probably, and for them just to come down and they were great and we invited them to come down, and this year we were going to play them at their place. I think, is that right? Or they weren't going to come to our place, so we invited them for an Oklahoma City Derby match for them to come down, and they decided, yeah. So we're going to have a good time out here, and we'll love to have you out there, Harry. The ticket and the beer be on me, man.
I'm checking to see if San Antonio will be in Colorado Springs.
Oh.
So if I don't go to Colorado Springs, I will definitely look at doing that because that's something that we could do on a weekend for that here, because that was one of the big things when 2 years ago I made the trip to see St. Louis FC play, and then we went over to Louisville before the new stadium, Slugger Field. So on the weekend, we actually stayed in West Tulsa because we drove from San Antonio up to there, and then we're like, okay, hey, find a hotel. So we're trying to look it up. My wife's like, Tulsa, okay, and we're downtown Tulsa. Like, hey, get it, and she's like, okay, here, I found this one here, and it was in our budget, but it was way out in West Tulsa. So by the time we're getting over there, at that point the car ride was a little bit snippy.
Yeah,
going like, where did you take us? We were right there. What happened? So.
That's my neighborhood.
It was nice. It was a nice hotel. Just we're like, hey, can we find something here? And like, well, West Tulsa, where's that? I don't know. Sounds good. Book it. It's it was a Holiday Inn, and within our price range, and it was a newer hotel, and we're like, hey, that sounds great, and yeah, so.
We'll definitely have to talk about that and some other adventures I've had personally. So, but when you come down, man, and we'll definitely. We'll treat you good.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll definitely see if I can work it into the schedule. If not, like I said, I will be, like I said, it was my goal to get up to Tulsa this year with San Antonio FC. Obviously, you guys come down to us. And obviously, to return the favor, if you do make the trip down, I've definitely got your ticket for that here, and probably a couple of brews as well for that here. But Mario, was definitely fun to talk with you, and like I said, hopefully during the season we'll be able to catch up, and especially if it's after you guys have won the wrench already, and maybe see if Colin will come on and join at that time as well, and have a little bit of banter between the two of you. I heard he's super excited about wearing the Tulsa jersey.
Oh yeah.
Although he did say wasn't necessarily all games, so
we'll see. He's also a fellow Chelsea guy, so we'll see how
he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
But thank you for turning in tonight here. Like I said, here, hope everyone has a good rest of the weekend here. Like I said here, once again, Mario, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.